What's good, y'all? Welcome back, and welcome to the NBA Finals preview. It is basically 3 a.m. when I'm recording this, and it is officially NBA Finals day. Y'all be seeing this a little later on in the day. But yeah, I'm excited, I'm anxious, and I'm just hoping we get a good series. I'm here to give y'all my thoughts. But seeing a lot of people give like what they like about both teams, what they dislike, and some other stuff. I kind of like that format a little bit. So I actually wrote notes. I actually wrote them on my iPad. So y'all know I mean business when I pull out the iPad for show. So I wrote down the good about the Celtics and the Warriors. I wrote down the bad, and I wrote down some key matchups that I'm interested in. And it's not gonna be no, generic. Oh, who's gonna win the battle of the superstars? It's actually a little more in depth than that. So I'd appreciate it if y'all would leave a like, subscribe if you are not. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And let's go ahead and get into it, man. Talked about the Celtics a lot, so I'm gonna start with the Golden State Warriors. I've already mentioned, like, I was down on the Warriors for most of the season, and they proved me wrong. They were able to make a good finals run. Whether you say their competition was not the best, which I don't think it was, but they handled business. They only lost 4 playoff games on their way to the finals. Very impressive run. They show why they have been a championship team so many times over the last decade. And they have a chance to add to their collection. Their 6 finals and basically 6 playoff appearances, because they missed the playoffs 2 straight seasons. And basically under Steve Kerr, every time they make the playoffs, they're in the finals. And they have the experience. And that is my first thing on the good side of the Warriors. The experience. They have only lost 2 playoff series under Steve Kerr. And when I saw that stat, it kind of shocked me, but then it started to make sense, because like, oh, they only did lose 2 final series. That's the only playoff series they've lost under Steve Kerr. And it's kind of insane when you think about it. I think they're 20-2 or 21-2 in playoff series under Steve Kerr, which is just insane. And their 2 losses, one was blown a 3-1 lead to LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the other was against the Raptors when, KD only played 1 quarter in that series. Klay Thompson missed the game, and then he went down midway through the 3rd quarter in Game 6 when he had like 32 or 35 points, like he was cooking. So it's kind of extreme circumstances in which they lost those 2 series. It shows you how good that this team has been, how great they've been. And that's why the experience is the first thing that really came to my mind, especially when you compare it to the Celtics, which we will talk about. But the Warriors have all the experience in the world that you could ask for. They've been through every kind of situation. They've blown 3-1 leads. They've come back from 3-1 leads. They've won road games, game 7s. They've won game 7s at home. They've been through every situation. They swept teams in the finals. They won in 5. They've lost in 6. Like, they have done everything possible. They've been through every single kind of situation that you could ask for. And most of their top guys have been there along the entire way. So the experience is crazy. I also keep hearing a stat that they've won a road game in each series under Steve Kerr, so they are road warriors. And winning on the road is important in winning playoff series, obviously. Even if you have home court advantage, it's good to be able to get a road win. And that's why the experience is just the one thing that really jumped off the page to me. Just all the experience and winning that this team has done over the last decade. That's one of their strengths. Move on to the next one. Not really the development, but how different guys have performed in the postseason and stepped up in different ways. The first series, it was Jordan Poole. He was great in that very first series against the Nuggets. He's been good throughout the postseason as well, but that first series, he was one of their best players. And then we move on, like, Wiggins was not very good in that first series, but since then he's progressively gotten better to the point where people are saying, like, man, Andrew Wiggins is like, he removed that bust label. I don't think that bust label was ever on him. He was just in a situation where he was asked to be a number 1 option, and the more we got into his career, we're just like, he's not that kind of guy. He's not a number 1 option. But what he has found is a role with the team that fits him. He's allowed to play defense, rebound the basketball like crazy, score within the flow of the offense, and every now and then be asked to create a shot. But it's nothing that he can't do, and he doesn't have to go out and create 22 shots a game. He's getting shots within the flow of the offense, 3-point shots, back cuts, alley-oops, things like that fits his game, fits his play style a lot more. I think like in boxing, people say styles make fights. I think situations in the NBA can make a player sometimes. Andrew Wiggins is still as talented as a player as he's always been, He's just in a situation that has fit him. He's bought in. Guys have really pushed him. And now we're seeing like what, the full potential of Andrew Wiggins can be. He's not a number one option, but if he's your third or fourth guy, he can perform. And that's why, he's impacting winning basketball. And I love to see it because even though like when he came out of college, I wasn't the highest on Wiggs, but as his career got on, I thought he was somebody that always just got a lot of, flack for no reason. A lot of people just disliked him, said he was soft, all this stuff. And I'm just glad to see him impacting winning basketball for sure. And then Kavon Looney, man, I say it every time I mention him, but he's only 26 years old, which is just insane to me because he looks like he's like 37. But he's 26 years old, and in this postseason, first round series against the Nuggets, basically unplayable. And then as we got deeper into the Memphis series, he had the game where he had 20-plus rebounds. He dominated that game. Then he had a lot of games, a lot of moments in that conference finals where he was the most impactful player on the floor. And I truly mean that. Like, I was kind of half joking when I said it to my friends in the group chat, but I was kind of serious at the same time. Like, he had a real case to win that conference finals MVP, in my opinion. Because there were a lot of times in that series where he was getting a lot of second chance opportunities, creating extra possessions off the offensive glass, just hustling, working his tail off, which helped them win some of those games. Like, I remember Game 3 in Dallas was a big one, and Game 2 in Golden State when they were down like 17 points. He was really big in that comeback win. He was one of the best players in that series, in my opinion. And just, his development, man, because a couple years ago, he looked like he could barely move up and down the court. He was so injured. And, now he's the starting center in last couple of years where they've talked about, they drafted James Wiseman, who kind of forget he's even on the team. And we've heard the Miles Turner, the Sabonis, even like Karl Anthony Towns rumors thrown in here and there. There's been a lot of rumors of centers potentially being on the move to Golden State. It's still going to be out there for sure. But Looney does exactly what they need him to do. So I got to give a shout out to him. Next is getting healthy. That's where I'm going to mention some other guys. Gary Payton II getting healthy, potentially being ready for Game 1. It's going to be big. I feel like they did miss him, but it's just always good to have as many wing defenders as possible. He was doing a pretty solid job on John Moran in that first game of the Memphis series. And he's just somebody who I just really like, man. He hustles. Basically plays like a center position for them. He's so effective, man. There's a lot of tweets from me this season saying like Gary Payton II is like my favorite player in basketball. I love his game so much. Some of the best hands in the league. Obviously, his dad was the glove, but he's a pretty damn good defender his damn self, man. Like, shout out to Gary Payton. Glad to see him getting healthy after that dirty play by Dylan Brooks. Also getting healthy, I think Otto Porter's going to be ready, and potentially Andre Iguodala is going to be ready. And I'm not expecting Iggy to come out and do much, but like I said, it's just always good to have as many wing defenders as possible, especially when you're going up against the Boston Celtics. Because we saw what the Miami Heat wings were able to do, and we're going to talk about that soon when I get to the Celtics. But it's just good to get healthy at this time. That's a very important piece. And next, I wrote this in kind of late, but their ability to hide Jordan Poole and Steph Curry in pick and rolls and avoid switches, second to none. In that Dallas series, I really only remember like once or twice where Steph got switched on to Luka. They do a hell of a job avoiding those matchups. And, you think, if you play like basketball or pick up, people, they'll switch to pick and rolls easily there, but Steve Kerr and his staff, they like, nah, we are hedging, we are blitzing, we're recovering. Look, it's either you're not going to get this switch, you're just going to be working seconds off the shot clock, or we're going W and put the ball in the hands of whoever's setting the screen and force them to make a play. They do such a good job at it. That's why it's like, in your mind, you're like, man, attack Steph on defense, make him tired. You can still make him work on the defensive side of the floor, but it's not organically like how you usually would. It's not like how Dallas was doing to Chris Paul. Just putting him in pick and rolls, getting Luka switch, and then just attacking. It's not that easy. If it was that easy, I feel like teams would have figured it out by now, but they've been doing a good job hiding Steph for about a decade now. Like, they've been doing that for a long time. That's the main good points I have about the Warriors. Another thing that I want to add in is Klay Thompson looking more like himself on the offensive side of the floor. Very key. that was my biggest concern about them throughout the season was, is Klay going to be ready? Is he going to be ready for, to really play playoff championship level basketball in the postseason? And hasn't been always consistent, but we've seen a lot more of Klay Thompson looking like Klay Thompson. And I think that's key for them. That's key. And everything else goes without saying. Like, we know Steph Curry is Steph Curry. He hasn't even had to be like Superman. He's just been good in this postseason run. Like, he's been really good. Draymond, we know what his impact. I don't have to really speak on that. Like, that's obvious. ESPN's going to do that. I like to focus on other things, other guys that don't get shine, and just smaller things that can really make a big difference in the series. Those are my main good points about the Warriors. Now the bad. A couple of these are just questions that I have, which I don't know if they'll be able to do. One is, can they dominate the glass? Because their last couple series, they've dominated the offensive boards. Especially against Dallas, they really dominated that series, rebounding the basketball. I don't think you can really do that against the Celtics. Even though Miami was able to get a lot of offensive rebounds, but I think that was just kind of different because, I don't know, I just feel like that was just kind of like an anomaly type of thing. Like, other than that, the Celtics are a bigger team. They are pretty good at, holding the defensive boards down. They do a pretty good job at it. So that's my one question, like, how effective can Kavon Looney actually be in this series? Because last time we saw him play against like a good, front line, a good big, he was unplayable. So I'm interested to see how much small ball we see, if we see less of Looney, if we see just the right amount, or if we see more. I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued on that aspect. For sure, that's something Steve Kerr is going to have to decide. The Warriors have not played like an elite level defense yet. And obviously the Celtics have not played a team of the Warriors' offensive caliber. But the Celtics are historically good defensively. This is by far, it's the number one defense in basketball. This is the best defense that they're going to play. How will they be able to match up with that and attack that with that free-flowing offense? The Celtics switch 1 through 5. They switch more than any team in basketball except for one team. I'm not sure who that team is, but I did hear JJ Redick say it. They switch a lot. Like, the Celtics are not afraid to switch. They will switch Rob Williams on the Curry. They'll switch Horford on the Curry. Horford's the best defensive big when it comes to switches as far as opponent field goal percentage. So they're not afraid to, leave their bigs out there. And for the most part, it's worked in this playoff run. It's worked in this season. So I'm just interested to see how the Warriors will attack the Celtics defense, because there's not really any weak points there. Next is, can the Warriors themselves be disruptive defensively? And when I say that, because the Celtics struggled with taking care of the basketball last series, and I don't really think it was as much as them being sloppy with the ball, but more so the Miami Heat being disruptive. PJ Tucker, Jimmy Butler, Victor Oladipo, even throwing Kyle Lowry in there. Those guys' active hands, being disruptive, forcing, turnovers, like ball handling turnovers. I think that was key. I think that's disruptive defense. The Warriors are the number 2 defense in basketball. Can they be disruptive? That's why I think getting Gary Payton back is big. But can they be more disruptive than just GP2? Like, they need guys to really be disruptive, get into Tatum and Brown, force them to make mistakes handling the ball. I think that's key. I think that's why that Miami Heat series stretched out so long, because there were moments in time where Victor Oladipo was getting like 4 or 5 steals in a quarter off of, rips, like just ripping the ball away from people. So I think that's big. I think you can be a good defensive team. You can be a very good defensive team. Just make right rotations, good contests, rebound and stuff like that. But at this point in the season, you got to be disruptive. And against the Celtics, you got to be disruptive. You really have to. And my last thing is turnovers, because notoriously the Warriors are a team that always struggles turning the ball over. It's just how it is. I don't really have to go too much into detail of that. They just got to take care of the basketball. I think whoever wins the turnover battle in this series will have a good chance moving forward. And now let's move on to the Boston Celtics, because that was a lot. That was like 15 minutes worth of Warriors talk. Let's move on to the Boston Celtics. I talked about them a lot, man, so I'm going to just go ahead and get into it. They're battle tested. They've been through 2 7-game series. They played against KD and Kyrie in the first round, and it was a sweep, but it was a competitive one. A lot of those games were very close. They've been through a lot. In just this postseason run, they have been through a lot. They've had to grow up kind of fast. I think that's a good aspect, because you had to have a lot of experience going against the Warriors. And even though they don't have that finals experience, which is one of the things that I have in my bad, part. But they don't have the finals experience. But I think that this will be good enough that they do have a lot of experience just in this postseason run, going against great teams, great players, and getting taken, to the lengths. They've had to go on the road, winning Game 6 down 3-2. They've blown a Game 6 at home up 3-2. Like, they've been through it all in just this postseason run. They've been through a lot. Mentioned the best defense. That goes without saying. This is the best defense the Warriors are going to face. And you can't attack them anywhere, man. Only time you really can, like, they were kind of able to attack Derek White, but that was Jimmy Butler. I don't think the Warriors would be able to do that. And, Peyton Pritchard, even then, I don't really think the Warriors would be able to attack him too much. Who knows how many minutes he'll even be getting. So, the Celtics, especially against the Warriors, I think they match up so well. They don't really have anywhere where they can truly get exploited on switches on the defensive side of the floor. And they've shot the three-point shot pretty well in the postseason, especially in the Bucks series. But certain times in the Miami series, they're really shooting the ball well. And I think that is also tied into, the bad. Can Marcus Smart, can Grant Williams, can Derek White, can Al Horford, can those guys knock down three-point shots consistently? Because they're probably going to get a lot of open looks. They will probably get a lot of open looks. So I think that's going to be very, very critical in this series, man. And, that's basically, kind of transitioning into the bad. My main thing, I mentioned turnovers already. Turnover battle is key. Lack of finals experience can maybe be a problem because the finals is a little different. Celtics are one of the worst teams at crunch time. They're terrible. Like, record is bad. Tatum's numbers are bad. Jaylen Brown's not great. In close game situations, they're bad. It's just a matter of, like, they're a very bad, close, clutch time team. Like, they're terrible, man. So, if games are close, as a fan, I'm not confident. Especially against the Warriors, I'm just not confident. Just look at last game. It shouldn't have even been a crunch time situation, but it ended up being that because the Celtics are just that bad closing games out. So, that's something to keep an eye on. And my first point on the bad, which this is what just concerns me the most, they go through stretches at times where they're just a bad basketball team. Turnovers, half-court offense is pitiful. Sometimes just not communicating on defense, not getting back in transition. Like, so many times they just look like a terrible basketball team. That concerns me because when you go against the Warriors, you can't really have phases in the game where you're just not engaged, not playing good basketball, not playing championship caliber basketball. Because then next thing you know, you're down 20 points that easily. Can't do that against the Warriors. That's why they kind of got to grow up fast. They've grown up a lot, but they got to grow up some more in this series, man. Because it almost came back to bite you at the end of Game 7, going through a stretch where you're just playing bad basketball. You don't want that to happen in the finals. You got this far, you might as well try and win it too. So it's got to be better in that aspect. That's the main thing that concerns me. And let's move on to the key matchups. We can kind of breeze through this a little bit. I'm definitely going to touch on them some, though. My first one that I wrote down was Curry versus Marcus Smart / Derek White, because I'm assuming a lot of those guys are going to get the majority of the Steph Curry assignment. Obviously, we're going to have switches. Might see some Tatum on them, too, maybe, because he's guarded some point guards a lot in this postseason run. But it's mainly going to be Marcus Smart, Derek White. And I'm interested to see how that matchup goes. Because you're going to be chasing around Steph Curry for, 40-plus minutes for potentially 7 games. That is a tasking thing to do. I think the good thing is the Celtics have a lot of different bodies that can potentially try and keep up with Steph Curry, but it's not going to be an easy thing to do. And on top of that, Klay Thompson, too. It's just a lot to ask for. And Jordan Poole. You definitely got to be super engaged defensively if you're, the guards of the Boston Celtics, but they've shown that they are one of the best guard defenses in the league all season. The matchup of the wings, JT and JB versus the wing defenders of Golden State. Wiggins, Gary Payton, Otto Porter, potentially Kuminga. Kind of talked about that earlier. Pick and roll chess game, we also touched on that. That's going to be very key on both sides of the floor. The switches for the Celtics, which they always do, and then hiding Steph Curry and Jordan Poole on hard hedges and just blitzing screens, and the effect of Robert Williams, Al Horford having to make plays out of the pick and roll. Battle of the boards, battle of the turnovers, I think are super key. I kind of mentioned that already. And then the coaching matchup. Steve Kerr has all the finals experience in the world as both a player and a coach. Ime does not have any really NBA coaching experience outside of this season. Like, this is his first year as a head coach. How's he going to respond? Is Steve Kerr going to wipe the floor with him? I don't know. I think Ime showed a lot in this postseason run. That's going to be an interesting matchup, man. It really is. Coaching matters, especially when we get to the NBA Finals. Rotations get shorter. Out-of-bounds plays are key. Adjustments in-game are key because sometimes you can't afford to wait a game to make an adjustment. Like, it's now or never. I'm excited. I think this is going to be a very good series. I guess it's time to make my prediction. I think this is going to be a really good series. I think people are kind of foolish for saying, Warriors in 4, Warriors in 5. I think these teams match up so well. I think it has the potential to go the distance. I've been pondering, but to give my professional opinion, because everybody knows I'm a Celtics fan, but I can't let my bias get in front of me. If I had to give my pick, which I am right now, I would say Golden State in 6. I think it's a close, competitive 6-game series. I just think the experience is too much, and I think the fact that the Celtics go through those stretches where they're just not good, it's going to come back to bite them. It really will. And if it gets down to a crunch time game, I trust the Warriors a lot more than I trust the Celtics. So, as much as it pains me, man, I would have to pick Golden State. I have to pick them in 6 games, and that's just crazy given how much I've talked trash about them this season. Not trash, but, underestimated them this season. So, yeah, can't underestimate the heart of a champion, bro. You just can't. So, I'm going to take the Warriors in 6. I just hope it's a good series. Nonetheless, I still think the Celtics will have a chance if everything can go their way, if they can really, get engaged, keep up playing great basketball. They'll have a chance. But I'm going to say Warriors in 6. So, it's finals day. I'm excited. Hopefully, it's a good series, man. Make sure y'all leave a like, subscribe, like I said at the beginning of the video. And yeah, just make sure you got post notifications turned on because I will be uploading after every single finals game. I appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all after game 1. I'm out. Peace.